Hey guys, Nathan Madsen. I'm the owner, composer, and sound designer behind Madsen Studios. And today I want to talk about tempo. So you'll see here I have this track set up. This was a track I wrote for a client for their Kickstarter video. And I thought it was a pretty good example to show how to work with different tempo. Now, a quick note about tempo. Not every style, not every type of song will need a tempo changes. But if you're working with something that is most of the time organically played by humans, symphonic music, band music, could be rock band, could be jazz, those type of things, you may want to do different tempos. Something like a chip tune, EDM type of track, you could get away with no tempo changes and the song could be freaking awesome just as is. But if you're not using tempo changes and you're writing orchestral music or something that is a highly organic human ensemble, well then, yeah, you could be missing out on a layer that can make your sound more realistic. Let's dig in a little bit. So I will link the actual song to you in the YouTube description. For now, it's about a 3.5 minute song. I'm not going to play the whole song. I'm just going to play snippets of it. But I want to show you the tempo map of this piece. You'll see it's here. It starts at 122. That's about as big as I can make it. That's what she said. So it starts at 122. Let me pull up the editor here. You can see 122. Then it drops down 2 clicks down to 120. Then again down to 118. Back to 120, 124, 127, and finally back to 120. So those are the tempo changes. And here you can see the type of gradients that are moving. Some of them are sharp, like right here, and then pretty sharp decline right back down to 120. And some of these are more gradual. I can zoom in a bit more here and show you what I'm talking about. So let me just play you what I'm doing here. I'll play the beginning part from about bar 1 till about bar 17. And around bar 13 or so, you're going to see and hear things slow down. It's going to taper back a little bit and settle into a new groove. Let's take a look. Tempo of 120. Again, 122 to 120 is not that big of a change. Now I want to talk about another element I like to do a lot in my pieces. I'll see composers sometimes put transitions, a speed up, and then right on the next bar in the downbeat, the new tempo will be locked in place. To me, that's not realistic. That's not organic. Keep in mind, the larger your ensemble, the larger the gradient of time that might happen where it has to lock into tempo. I'm not even sure that made sense the way I said that, but it takes a little bit longer for the tempos to lock in the more players you have. That's a better way to put it. So if I zoom in here, you'll see it's going from 118 to 120, and it takes a little bit of time to really be at that 120 mark. Now again, 2 clicks on the metronome is not a huge difference, but I feel like that makes it feel a little more organic instead of just click, we're to a new tempo. That will feel artificial, particularly for a large ensemble like a symphony orchestra. Something where you have a solo pianist, solo guitarist, that could be possible. They can make sudden changes in tempo and it not be something that has to be blended into or has to be worked into a little bit. Let's back up here and take a listen to how this feels going from this a little bit slower tempo to a little bit faster tempo, and the full change happens after the downbeat, not on the downbeat. Now a couple things there. It may not be super noticeable because I'm going from one type of style of writing to another style of writing. So that's not exactly a apples to apples comparison. But I also felt like speeding up a little bit when you have the solo violin there, it would increase the energy of the piece while the instrumentation drops out. That's a good technique for arrangement and production to try and do. Let's listen to a couple other spots. Now this spot, from about bar 54-ish to about 77, you'll see this slow ramp up. What's happening here, this tempo is going from 120 to 124. Not a huge change, again, but gradually over those many, many measures, it's going to change. That's about, what, 23 measures? It's going to change in tempo a little bit. The other thing that's happening is there's more and more orchestration being added into the piece. And harmonically, the piece is starting here and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the structure is getting higher and higher and higher. Let's listen to... Sorry, it's my little kid. Let's listen to that here. Let's start about 54. No, we'll back up. Let's go to 50 right there. Still at 120. This is a very gradual slope. Watch this number. See it changing? Very small changes, but it is changing. It's getting slightly faster. Almost to 120. Now to 121. Still pretty faster. Now, sorry, I have the music on pretty loud in my can, so it might be pretty loud on the actual recording and the screen recording. We get to 77 and we're at our fastest speed up until the final ramp up, which is right at the very, very end. So I like to think that this is just giving a bit more energy to the piece. If it was just staying at 120, even with the automation that's going on, which I'll show that to you, and even with the changes of orchestration going on, you can see here these things are getting louder, louder. This is building, a lot of things are getting louder here and building up to this big moment. I think without the tempo change, it wouldn't be as effective as if it is with the tempo change. Let's listen to the last little bit. We'll start here. This is the last time that the theme is stated. Let me make that tempo map a bit more visible. So we're going to go up to, this is the last build, and we'll just hear it through the end. I did do one spike in tempo, and it drops back down to 120. I will talk about one more thing here in just 1 second, but let's listen to this, let this finish out, and then I'll talk about my final point. So, the final point I wanted to bring to your attention is something that I don't normally do, and I did it in this piece, is I went back to the same tempo every time. I went back to 120. I started at 122, but 120 is there for a large portion of this piece. I don't usually do that. In fact, I'm kind of surprised I did that. It would make more sense for me to say, okay, maybe that final ramp, the composer, the ensemble still got some energy there, so maybe they go back to 123. They want to go back to the original tempo, but we're not computers, we're humans. So our adrenaline's still going, we're still excited about the piece, the performance, and so we're going a little bit faster. And then let's say the mid section right here, we're at 120 from 13, and we slow down a little bit here. We talked about that. Let's say instead of going all the way back right to 120, let's say we take a little bit longer to get back there and we go to 119. Something like that. I usually don't try and do repeats are the same tempos, because rarely do live performances have strict repetitions of the same tempo. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So this is just something I want to talk about very briefly with you. If you're not using tempo changes in your pieces, start. It can really add a lot of impact, a lot of emotional relevance to your piece. Because otherwise it's going to sound like a computer is playing it, because a computer is playing it, because so many of us are writing with virtual orchestras. So this is my second video. Sorry if I'm still working out some kinks, but I really have enjoyed doing these. I've enjoyed the response I'm getting from many of you guys with direct messages and comments and feedback. So I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.